Hey everyone, my name's Christy. Welcome to my corner. I'm pretty excited about this video because it's my first floss tube, and although I'm not sure that it's a real floss tube because I'm not a cross stitcher, I do freehand embroidery, I didn't know what else to call this, so floss tube it is. My plan is to post a floss tube video every Friday. We'll see how long that lasts. But some will be slightly different, and they'll include some things about like my favorite tools or supplies or stitches or historical facts or other things that I want to talk about. Basically, I'm an extrovert, and being in isolation since March has been really difficult for me, and I thought maybe talking about my embroidery on YouTube would save my fiance's sanity because he comes home from work and I essentially like extrovert all over him and he just wants to watch TV. So he's wonderful and supportive about it, but I kind of want to save him from me, basically. Because really, I really want to talk about my embroidery with someone. And hopefully this way I can also find a community of fellow stitchers who want to virtually hang out with me. So if you're interested in that kind of a thing, please subscribe. That would be really awesome. I want to start with a brief introduction of who I am and what exactly it is that I do, and then I'll show you my current works in progress, some recently finished objects, and finally I have a haul, which is fun, a small haul, which is fun. In my daily life, I am a history professor and medieval historian at a small university in Mississippi in the southern US. I've been stitching for a little bit over a year. I started stitching in July of 2019. When I was visiting my family in the Northeast US, I stayed with my mom, who has been doing fiber arts for a long time, and she had recently started cross-stitching. And it looked really fun, but I am terrible at counting, which sounds really stupid, but I'm really bad at counting. There's some disconnect between my eyes and my brain, and I just can't, like, I have to recount things 4 or 5 times. And I second guess myself, and I thought that cross stitch, like counted cross stitch, would not be relaxing for me at all. But then I realized that there was freehand embroidery, and I had done a little bit of embroidery back in college, but it didn't stick and it was like not a big deal. But I thought, well, why don't I see what patterns are available, and I would try to embroider. So the first embroidery pattern I got was the original drop cloth sampler by Rebecca Ringquist. And I'll link to her website below. But essentially, it's just a mess of really interesting stitches that I didn't know existed. When I did it in college, I just did a satin stitch, and that was it. But apparently, there are like dozens and dozens of stitches out there, and that's amazing. And I kind of discovered that through this sampler. So that's the first finished object that I ever did, which I think is cool. After I bought that, and I bought that at like 2 o'clock in the morning at my grandmother's house. I mean, it was like right away I decided I was going to do this thing, and I was going to do this thing right now. And I bought that one, and I bought a second one also that I haven't done yet. But then I became obsessed, and all I wanted to do was embroidery. And it took I had research that I had to do, I had to prep for classes, but all I wanted to do was just sit and embroider all day. So I have a friend here in Mississippi who owns a local pie and coffee shop. And our town does an art walk where artists show and sell their work in different stores. And so it brings people downtown, it gets people in stores. And my friend who owns this pie and coffee shop asked if I would be her artist. And I had been embroidering at that point for maybe a month. And I had a bunch of really neat stuff, but it was brand new. And I, of course, said yes, because I almost always say yes to things like that because I just think that they're really fun. And I essentially spent two months just embroidering like 8 hours a day on top of all the work I was doing. I was exhausted. And so she was really supportive of me, and it was a really fun show, and I sold some of my stuff, which was really exciting. And I don't do patterns very much, so I have the drop cloth sampler that I did at first, but for the most part, I either go from pictures or sketches, that kind of a thing. I don't buy people's patterns usually and sell them because that would be unethical. I do my own patterns and sell them, or my own embroideries and sell them, or I embroider images that I have a license to, like a business license to sell, which I can talk about later. So that's kind of my history of stitching. It's not very long, but it's very prolific. And throughout the next couple weeks, I'll show you some of my finished objects. I just discovered Flosstube like a couple weeks ago. I don't know how I missed that. I basically taught myself how to embroider through YouTube, and yet I didn't do Flosstube because it was mostly cross-stitching and I wasn't doing cross-stitching. But recently I've just wanted people to like feel like I'm hanging out with, and so I've gotten that from Flosstube. So I found Flosstube. I decided I might as well just like jump in. If nobody watches, that's fine. At least I'm throwing it out there, and it gets me talking. So I'm really excited about Flosstube and maybe being part of a community. And the other thing that is fun about Flosstube is that it shows me different suppliers, like small scale suppliers that I wouldn't have known of otherwise. So I've recently placed some orders with small floss dyers and, you know, different, mostly floss, actually. I'm kind of obsessed with getting floss, as you know, I'm building my stash of floss like you see behind me. I'll show some pieces later in this video, and probably for the first couple weeks, I'll kind of pull from my photo archive, since I won't have a ton of time to finish new projects because my semester starts on Monday. And I don't, on a normal semester, I don't have a ton of time at the beginning of the semester. But during COVID and isolation and lots of online classes, I had even less time. I'm going to probably just kind of pull up pictures because most of my old pieces have been sold. And so I will show you pictures of them and I'll pop them up, you know, where appropriate. But first, let's talk about my works in progress. I technically have 4 whips, actually. 2 of them I'm not even going to bother showing you because they were just sort of sketched out. And I like started them and then put them in a bag, and I don't know that they'll ever get finished. If they become sort of real whips, maybe I'll show you later. But my first whip has been about 6 months, and I just can't get into it. And it, you know, it lives in this bag that, and I don't even have it in a hoop anymore because it's been so long. But essentially it is a medieval bear. Let's see if I can show you. So it's a medieval bear who's stealing honey and being attacked by bees. And it says, it says, "Oh bother." So it's sort of like a medieval Winnie the Pooh situation. And for some reason, I'm totally not interested in this. I'll show you the original picture, which is really cute. And I should just finish it. So maybe I'll start up on this again. But this is my longest term whip at the moment. So that's that. And then I have one that I'm actually currently working on, which is another medieval image. And this one is an image from the Bayeux Tapestry. And this Bayeux Tapestry image is right underneath King Harold, who I finished last week. So they kind of go together. And this is my favorite scene from the Bayeux Tapestry. And this is my favorite figure. It's a little guy stripping armor off of a dead body. I'm a medieval historian. What can I say? I don't know what else to say about that. I really like stitching medieval imagery, and I like adding like modern memes to that medieval imagery. And essentially, I just think that the juxtaposition of the very modern meme, like social media meme, and the medieval imagery just like makes me laugh. And that's my goal in life, is to really do things that bring me joy and make me laugh. I'll post a couple pictures of other medieval meme embroideries that I did that have been sold to friends and colleagues right here, so you can see. And I have sort of like a mood lion, and I have a "this is fine" dog, and a mood bird, and they just make me really happy. And my friends and colleagues who have them say they make them happy as well. And that's really what, to me, embroidery is all about, is making people happy. So like I said, King Harold is my favorite image from the Bayeux Tapestry, and I showed some friends. I have a Zoom with some friends from grad school, and 3 of them were like, we need versions of that. So you'll be seeing him again in whips in the coming weeks because I'm waiting for some fabric to come in to do him. But I'm going to do, I think, 3 more of him. So it'll be a Bayou Tapestry whip parade, I'm sure, for the next month or so. And I think one day I may just do a whole episode of a whole Flosstube on the Bayou Tapestry because it's such a cool embroidery, and especially the Bayou stitch, which is this stitch that fills in the large areas, which is not a normal stitch that people do anymore, but it is brilliant and amazing, and I love it. And I would love to sort of talk about this and why it's so brilliant, and talk about the Bayou Tapestry and how amazing this artifact is. So I think that'll come probably in a couple weeks, maybe a month or 2. Who knows? Who knows with COVID? No one knows anything. What is time? Anyway, so that's it for whips. I have and they're both medieval, which, you know, I'm a medieval historian, so that makes sense. What I would like to do, though, is just show you a more varied selection of FOs. I do love the medieval images, but I will basically embroider anything that catches my fancy, whether that's like florals, classical florals, or sayings, or pictures I can find. I don't usually use patterns, although I do have some, like my first embroidery. I do some penguin and fish embroideries, like that one was last month. But other than that, I basically just use my own ideas or sketches or whatever that I find. But I'm not great at drawing, so I usually have an image that I have to trace, right? And I change it in some way to make it my own. But, you know, I just can't. I'm just not good at drawing. I don't know. I need to practice that. That's a thing that I had planned on practicing this summer, and then the summer became very weird, so I didn't. But I'm working on it. So, you know, lots of images inspire me. But the kind of embroidery that really makes me really happy and fills me with real joy and makes me feel like a creative artist is landscapes. I do some landscapes from my imagination, and I do some landscapes from pictures. So I have 2 of my landscapes here that I'll show you kind of live, and then I'll show you pictures of the other 3. 2 of them are in a gallery on campus, on my campus, where they're having a textile show on our campus gallery, and I submitted 2 pieces to that. So I'll show pictures of those, and then I have a 5th piece that I sold to a friend of mine, so I'll show a picture of that as well. So the 2 that I have are this picture here, which is an image of Lake Tahoe that my mom took when they went on vacation. And it's changed a little bit from her picture, but, you know, I really enjoy it. It makes me really happy to make pieces like this. So this is my Lake Tahoe, and this lives in my living room at the moment. And then this one is the Sonora Desert, and it just kind of came from my recollections when I visited there 5 years ago or 6 years ago or whatever. And so this one is not from a picture. And the 2 that are at my university's gallery are this sunset that I got from a picture that I kind of found. I was looking for a sunset picture, and so I found this picture, and I thought it would make a really cool embroidery. And then also this wheat field that is from my own imagination. And what I find is that when I go from a picture, it's kind of more realistic, although kind of impressionist. But when I go from my own imagination, it's more like folk art. And I don't know if that's because I can't draw, which is always a possibility, or what. When I go from my imagination, I go in thinking I'm going to do a realistic image. But then every single decision I make takes it more and more and more impressionist and folk. And so, for example, you know, the hills in this, like no hills are actually like this. And yet I really wanted the hills to be this kind of swooping, you know, imagery and movement. But if I were going for an actual image, like an actual photograph type image, I wouldn't have done that. So I think in my mind, I want it to be realistic, but in my heart, I don't. In my heart, I want movement and texture and color clashes and stuff like that. So those are my 4 landscapes that are still like, that I still own, they're still in my possession. And then the last landscape was actually the first landscape that I ever did, which is Moonrise, which I sold to one of my friends and colleagues on campus. She's the head of our counseling center, and so she, I think, has it in her office, which is really sweet. So those are my landscapes. But my most recent finished object isn't a landscape or a medieval image. And in fact, I drew it myself because it's actually not that difficult. But it is this ridiculous unicorn that is on the shiniest polyester satin I could find because I wanted it ridiculous. And it says, "Sometimes swearing helps," because that's how I was feeling when I sketched this. I made a version of this for my friend with a Bichon. She has Bichon dogs for her birthday. And then I made another version of this with a unicorn that my friend who bought the Moonrise also bought for her office. So that's that. And it's not mounted or framed because I think at some point I want to do a how I finish things video, because there are 3 different ways that I finish my embroideries in hoops that don't involve glue. And so I thought maybe I could, I don't know, show you all that as well. But it makes me laugh, and that's what's important. And next week I'll show more of my sayings embroideries and maybe some insects. I have a couple insect embroideries that I really like, so I might do those next week. So that's all of my finished objects. And finally, I think is my haul, which is very small. When I embroider, I try to keep things interesting for me. And I experiment with different materials. So my haul is a couple of needle felting kits from woolery.com. And the reason why I got these is because I want to try to incorporate needle felting into my embroidery. So 2D needle felting. The first one I got is called Mountain Sunset. And essentially it's a landscape, it's a needle felting landscape. And I'm hoping that this will kind of teach me how to do needle felting for things like clouds and maybe galaxies. I don't know. It just kind of gives me another dimension for my work, which I really like. I have a second one of these landscapes coming, but it was on back order. So this is Painting with Wool Needle Felting Kit by Felted Sky, and this is called Mountain Sunset. And this was $35 at woolery.com. And it comes with basically everything you need, including all of the like the fabric, and it just uses the linen fabric, which is good because that's mostly what I use. Little things of wool, instructions, needles, and a hoop. And it looks like a nice hoop. I'm pretty excited about that, about trying that. That's the first kit I got, and the only thing it didn't come with that I need is a foam that I can, because you punch through a foam, but I bought one of those. I just bought one of their foam pieces here, so I bought that. And then the second one I ordered 3, so I ordered 2 landscapes, one of which came in, one is on back order, but it'll come, and I'll show you when it comes. And then, just for fun, I got a tapestry needle felting kit of Scandinavian deer. My grandmother is first-generation Norwegian American. I kind of identify as Norwegian and Italian American. This speaks to my Norwegian side, which I love. And this has everything. It even comes with foam. And there were all different designs. Sorry about the crinkling. All different designs of this kind of felting and from this company. Some of them are medieval and they look really cool. I was really torn between this one and like the Byzantine horse. So this is also woolery.com, and this one was $40. But this one comes with the foam, so it kind of, that makes up for that $5 difference. I'm really excited to start these, and I'll show you when I do. That's exciting. Another way that I try to keep my embroidery interesting is I bought some watercolors. I've kind of experimented a little bit with watercoloring on my fabric and then embroidering over that, but I kind of want to explore that more. One of the problems is I ran out of white cloth, and I don't know that it would work so well on not white cloth, and with COVID and isolation, I'm not going to stores. My closest fabric store that I actually go to is an hour away, and I haven't gone. But I ordered some white fabrics that'll be coming in, and I'll maybe try again. The other thing I did this past week is I was walking my dog. And again, I live in Mississippi in the southern US, and I picked up a magnolia leaf off the ground while walking my dog, and I decided to embroider it. And I mean, it's not a great embroidery. The stitches aren't great. They're not straight. Some of my French knots pulled through. But as a proof of concept, this could be really cool. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. It just hangs out up there for now. But I think I'm going to try doing this some more. And someone sent me a link to a really awesome artist who embroiders on magnolia leaves. And I aspire. Like, so amazing. So this is an exciting thing I think I want to explore. And magnolia leaves are really thick. And the dried ones, when you soak them, feel kind of like leather. I don't know, they're just an amazing medium. And if it doesn't work, I'm out a little bit of floss and a dead leaf. Oh, and some time, but you know, whatever. I'm not going anywhere, you know. Anyway, these are my experiments, and that's my haul. And I think that this is now the end of my first Flosstube. I hope that you enjoyed learning more about me and my stitching and, you know, my life. Thanks for watching, and subscribe if you want to see more videos. And until next time, have a good one.